If I had to sum this album up into one sentence, I would say it's about learning how to be honest with your pain and your suffering and letting God transform you into the person that you were always meant to be. While this album is about everything that we've personally been through, I also feel like this album is about the human condition. I think it is so easy for us to find ourselves in a dark place where we think that we're just alone and no one understands us. But if we can just open our hearts to the truth and realize that nothing is new under the sun, then we can connect with others that do get it and realize that we are not alone.
I think that this album, from the start, we had a pretty clear idea of what it was going to be like, and I think we were pretty successful in following through with that idea. So the concept was born out of us feeling really burnt out and really unhappy with the way we approached writing the last album. Not that we were unhappy with the result, but we knew that we wanted to do things differently, and we sort of started to feel the spark again. So we took those experiences on how we felt and getting back into the swing of things to put that into what the album was about, or what this album was about, specifically topic-wise. And I think we did a pretty good job of it, so I don't think that there were any rogue feelings or opinions flying out of left field when we were writing this. It was pretty much just about that for me.
So for this album, Beth and I really leaned into our faith. We've been pretty vocal in the past that we feel this is a calling from God, but we haven't really talked about our faith that much in general. Beth and I just finished going through the book of Psalms. And the book of Psalms is all about different people expressing their emotions in a healthy way to God, whether it's there's some joy and gratefulness and rejoicing, but actually I think it is like 60% or something of them or more is about lamenting, expressing your pain, your sorrow of like what's going on in your life, like why is this happening to you? And I realized then that this album is an album of psalms. This is our personal psalms that we've written to God. Even before I kind of pieced that together, we started this album and I wrote each song with a specific emotion in mind, and that's how we kind of created the whole album and the concept of the death and resurrection. It's like, okay, so what emotions did we go through in the depression phase, the dark night phase, and what emotions do we want to convey coming out of that on the other side? So it was going through that with writing the music. I had a specific emotion I was trying to like target with each song and kind of like really bring that emotion out, and then Beth used that emotion as the inspiration for her lyrics. But kind of piecing that together and then seeing that this is literally what the book of Psalms is, I was like, man, this is just our personal Psalms. So that is what the album is to me. It's a journey. It is a journey from where we were to where we are now and everything in between. And it's been an amazing adventure, but man, it was hard. It's a hard couple of years.
My favorite part of making this album, this has kind of been the same for all of our albums, which is just hearing like unedited versions of everything when it's all there, like the song's not mixed or anything, but everything is like, the vision is fully realized, I guess, so to speak. That's why I like listening to them so much, and I am so like, oh, we gotta let's check these ones out, is because it's a lot easier for me, because while I do hear the initial stuff like a lot, and then obviously my parts I hear a lot, but it's not like you guys where you're just like pounding it into your brain every single day. So for me, it's just like, I know this stuff, but then I don't know, like all like the synth, most of the synth parts, or all the vocals, or, a lot of like the lead parts sometimes, and like solos. Those are all very new. So it's an exciting experience to get to hear them. And that's always my favorite part. And like listening back to it with Trevor and Beth after everything's done, but before we've really gotten into like the nitpicky details on stuff, it's just like, it's so rewarding to hear those types of things. And I love to listen to our music. So to me, that's been true for everything that we've done so far. And that's, again, the same for this album.
Writing it was a lot of fun this time. Even though it took a lot longer, because I was giving myself a lot more grace. It's because I took the pressure off of myself to write it in a certain amount of time, or it has to be a certain way, and really diving into like being an artist and like trying to like, convey a specific emotion in each song was like a fun challenge, but it also gave a lot of creativity to it. It gave a lot of direction, but it also made it way more fun to actually have like a personal thing to be writing about, and not that the last two albums weren't personal, but this is on a whole new level. This is on like really raw and honest, whereas the last ones were kind of writing about things we like, and like we're doing like a fight song and stuff, and that's awesome. I love that stuff, but like this is about a specific period with a specific story and a vision of how it's all coming together. I also really liked starting with the writing trip. I think it was really fun. I don't know, like as far as like writing an album, doing that again, it kind of just ended up being the same way we always write albums, where I write and we kind of just went off separately. So I think we'll do that, but just starting together in camaraderie. I think it was awesome, like just hanging out and spending time together and just like being friends. That was an awesome way to start it too.
For me, my favorite part of making this album was working on the lyrics. And of course I'm biased because that's my job, that's what I do, but I think that the lyrics in this album are something I'm extremely proud of, but at the same time, for fear of sounding maybe a bit like cheesy and cliche, I don't think I can take a lot of credit for them. I would say a lot of them are quite divinely inspired. And as Trevor kind of wrote each song based on like an emotion or a feeling or a situation, that definitely made it easier for me to hone in on a specific tone I was writing for. But I also really focused hard on making sure that all of these songs kind of talked back and forth to each other, that they spoke to each other throughout the entire album, that there's a sense of this weaving thread through all of them, where some songs on Resurrection directly call back to something that was said on Death, and Death can foreshadow some things that are said on Resurrection. So I spent a lot of time trying not to reuse certain words, but still get a message across that felt cohesive, but yet at the same time, each song can stand on its own, as its own message, its own emotion, its own experience. And so I'm extremely proud of what was accomplished through the lyrics on this album.
I think the biggest change in my life since, I would say for both, just starting the band and between albums, between Inviting Warfare and Anhedonia, is just me as a person. I've done the most personal growth I think I've ever done in my life in the last 5 years, and specifically in the last 2 or 3. Just dealing with disappointment. And again, like I said with the Psalms, like bringing that to God and letting Him kind of work with me and show me, maybe some wrong mindsets and some wrong perspectives on things, and refine me as a person, as the scriptures also talk about. But even in how I write music, the first 2 albums were very much proving something. I need to prove something. Like we're here and like we need to prove we can do it. And then with Inviting Warfare, like we need to prove we can do it better. And like I always remember going to California. Beth and I got to go to California and meet some of my guitar heroes, and they always said, like, you don't do what you want to do, you do what's best for the song. You ask the song what it needs and you move forward with that. And like, I'm not going to say that every single song on Bloom and Inviting Warfare was like not doing that, but I think a lot of it was just kind of like ham-fisting, like we want to do this, and like forcing things, making things because it's cool or because it's unique or whatever. Whereas this album was, when I wrote, my mindset was completely different. It was like, listen to the song and ask the song what it wants. And I think the art speaks for itself when you hear it.
When we first started making music, in the beginning, I think our energy, and we were overzealous to just get going and start writing and putting music out there. And that energy carried us through our first 2 albums. But after we released our last album, Inviting Warfare, we've been very vocal about this. We definitely hit a brick wall. And I think we've talked about how we kind of struggled with feeling burnt out. But I don't think that we've been as brutally honest, at least for Trevor and I. We hit a deep depression. And there were times where we couldn't even get out of bed some mornings. And while we were writing this album, after we came back from our writing trip, sometimes all Trevor and I could do was show up for 15 to 30 minutes a day, maybe even once a week, to work on the album. And we would sit down and we would try, and we just couldn't get ourselves to be there. But through that process and through writing this album and just really leaning into our faith and letting our hearts be transformed by God, we've definitely got ourselves into a better place where I feel that now our hearts are really where they need to be for us to pursue this calling that has been put on our lives. And so I think that the biggest change in my life personally is just, there's so many. Learning how to be an artist is definitely one of them, what it truly means to be an artist. And also just learning how to pursue what we've been asked to do while not making all of our own plans and taking on some giant burden that we were never asked to take on. I remember during the time of feeling really stressed out and depressed and just overwhelmed with continuing this music career, I very clearly heard the Lord say to me, I never asked you to do all these extra things. I just asked you to make music. And so that was my heart posture going in this album. And I think it really shows from the beginning to the end of this album, just that transformative journey.
I think the biggest change for me from where we started to where we were now for the writing process is definitely trusting Trevor more with his direction. And it's not, I say that, and it's not like I didn't trust him to begin with and I was like, oh man, he's gonna mess it all up or whatever. But now that we've kind of gotten into the swing of things more, and I know what his writing style is more like, because I knew what his playing style was before from all the times we jammed together, but we hadn't really done anything to this degree. And not only his writing style, but his composing, his mixing, his editing style. So I think that a lot of the times now when I'm writing, I'm thinking more about like the overall song as a whole compared to specifically what I'm doing. So some parts may be more complicated because of that I'm writing. Some parts may be less complicated to let everything kind of sit where it needs to. So I think that's probably like the biggest change. And again, it's not really like a lack of trust. It was just kind of learning that learning curve going into it. I think that we talk about gaining more confidence as we continue to go along, and each time when we're doing that, I always feel more and less confident at the same time. So I can't really say like going next, I'm gonna be even more confident when I get to a certain part and I'll feel like way worse than before or like way better. So I'd love to say that like I've just like slowly been gaining confidence in like I'm who I truly want to be, but I don't really think that's the case. We're just keeping on trucking.
This process has shown me to never do a double album again. What do we do after being burnt out on Inviting Warfare? Make an album that's 30 minutes longer. No, this process has taught me to be a better artist, to listen to my gut. I mean, it's largely in part to the work God's done on me as a person. He's really helped me lean into my creativity and really trust it and move forward with it. And I know there's a lot of opinions out there about art and creativity, and when you create something, it does take on its own character, its own personality, so to say, and you can try and force it. And there's many times in this album that I tried to force what I wanted, because I was like, no, this will be cool, and it just wasn't sitting right, and it wasn't sitting right. And I've learned to listen to that, because that's, to me, the song itself pushing back, being like, no, this is not what it needs to be. Also, just take the pressure off. Like, just actually enjoy what you're doing. Like, crazy thought, right? I think for me, it's hard to not put pressure on myself, because I'm a very type A person. I was diagnosed with OCD. Not just that I have OCD, it's like, no, you just like your pen's straight on your desk, or you like things organized. Like, it's like my childhood had a lot of really rough times with that. So for me, it's hard not to kind of like become OCD about like, I have to do, the song has to be X amount of length, or it has to be X amount of layers, or I have to do X amount of hours on a specific song in a specific day. Like, I just put all this like pressure to like achieve a certain like thing that at the end of the day doesn't matter and doesn't change anything. But that's why it's hard for me. And this album has really kind of stripped a lot of that out. I feel a lot freer from all of that than I've ever felt. It's not by my own strength. Yeah.
If anything, this process has just kind of cemented the fact that there's at least for us, no one singular way of writing, because we approached it from several different ideas this time, where like part of it we did the same as we always did, which is like Trevor comes up with a riff, pitches it to me, I go and work on it and that type of thing. But we also had Beth come forward with ideas of like saying, this is like a structure that I want. I don't really know what it's about it, but I want like this type of beat with it. or me coming up with an idea that was not like, here, this is a bass riff that I want to be like the center of the song, of just, hey, this is an idea that I think would start off a part here. How can we build it from here? So I think utilizing multiple approaches in the way that we wrote this time kind of made it the album that it is, and I think that that would be probably something that would be smart to continue doing in the future.
I think working on this album has shown me that the best art comes from writing and talking about things that you are personally passionate about, whether that is an emotion, an experience, or an idea. Honesty and being vulnerable in art always wins out. Another big thing that this album has shown me, but I think more specifically that I've just kind of learned through the process of the last album till now in my personal life, is that you cannot do anything for anybody else's approval. You cannot do things hoping that someone's going to understand you, even though we do talk about that in this album. You cannot do things hoping that someone's going to receive a certain message. All you can do is be honest with where you are in your life and just put something forward that you are proud of, that no algorithm can take away from you, nobody, no person, however close or far away from you they are, can take away from you. Just being honest and doing what you feel passionate about for the right reasons is what I want to always do in the future.
Which song is my favorite? I think all three of us will probably say the exact same song. It's Overcome. It's the last song on the album. It is the last song that I wrote for this album. In my gut, I just been like, we had like all these songs. We're like, this is it. It's good. Like, but I was just like, something's missing. Something's missing. Something's missing. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, there's like this album's not complete yet. And then I got this word, overcome, and it was like, that's it. That's the last song that's missing. That's the last the last message that's missing from this entire piece. So I think like the next day I just sat down and wrote the whole song, and in that day Beth went out for a couple hours and I wrote pretty much the entirety of it in a day. I'm super proud of it from a compositionalist perspective, and like from the work I did on it and from the producing I did on it, of the layering and everything, but I couldn't even really tell you why it's my favorite. It just is. There's just something really special about that song.
So, shocker, my favorite song on the album is Overcome. I think musically it's incredible. There's just something amazing about it, that it feels so empowering and so epic at the same time. Like I listen to that song and I just think, you know, I can do this, I can go. And I also really love the lyrical message of Overcome, because you know, I find we kind of get stuck on this I'm a survivor mindset, but we were never meant to just survive. We were never meant to just scrape through things. We are meant to be overcomers. We are meant to live above our circumstances and live above what happens to us and not just be victims. And so this song is just about taking it to that next level of not just scraping through, you know, by the skin of your teeth and just surviving and throwing a label of survivor on yourself. It's about empowering people to realize that there is an ability to overcome, and that we can stand as overcomers, and that we should be standing as overcomers.
Overcome, baby. That's a run. Yeah, it was. There's a lot of songs that I really like, obviously, and there have been like some surprise ones that have crept up on me that I didn't think I was going to like as much. But right from the first time that Trevor pitched like that orchestral riff from Overcome, I was like, this is going to be the best song on the album. And at no other point has anything else really felt like it could do that in the way that that song has. So there are still a lot of other ones that I think that I maybe I wouldn't say didn't like, but have crept up on me. Bring a Sword, like especially the version that you sent me, I was like, whoa, this song is like really, like I really like this one now. That was like, to me, that was the biggest surprise was Bring a Sword coming together. There were some other ones, like I think Exile, because like I obviously pitched a starting component to that, but I think that the way that all the other stuff that I had nothing to do with ended up turning out really good, so I really like that song as well. But Overcome is still king of the hill. I talked previously about Exile. I really like that one. I think the like the initial part that I wrote for it is like a very nice, somewhat melancholic line, and I think it fits really well. And then to have the whole song like come to the point that it does, and when we were initially planning out that song, the discussions that Trevor and I were having about like where we wanted it to go and kind of how we wanted it to build and finish in like the denouement at the very end, which I think is very nice. And I think that probably that is the song that resonates the most with me emotionally, just because of how it all ended up coming out.
It's really tough to pick just one, especially with Death, because that album is really focused on a lot of things we went through in the last couple years. I'll try and do this quickly, but honestly, I'd probably have to pick three of them. I'd probably have to pick Exile, Stasis, and Death. I think like Exile, man, remembering that feeling, there was a time when Beth and I were going through this album stuff, just the, kind of the fallout of Inviting Warfare and the burnout we put ourselves through. And then we had a lot of personal things going on in our life, which made us both feel like, thank God that we had each other. But we felt exiled from everybody around us. We felt like nobody understood what was going on. Nobody understood that this calling, nobody understood anything. And we felt exile. And man, I think we nailed that feeling in that song. And it is not that's a very beautiful song, but the feeling itself is very lonely. That holds a lot of weight for me emotionally. Stasis, kind of on the back of that, when you're experiencing all this stuff and nothing's changing. Every day you keep waking up depressed or upset or anxious, and every day that's just your constant. And then it starts just feeling like, this is my life now. Like nothing's ever going to change. And man, that's one of the biggest lies, but in the moment, it just feels true, and it feels so depressing, and it was so hard to just feel like every day is like, maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Nope. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Nope. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Nope. And you can hear that in Stasis. You can hear just the sadness in like specifically the vocals, because it's kind of ironic how like the guitars are actually a bit happier, but like the vocals and the melody is like so melancholic, and it's awesome. And then lastly, Death, just because it is kind of the final outcome of like all of that, the exile, the stasis of that, and then eventually you just kind of feel dead. Like you just kind of feel like you're not even living anymore, like you're just a shell, like you're not able to get out of this pit maybe. And I think Death kind of like, especially the bridge of Death, like holds like a really special place in my heart. It's kind of like a weave in that bridge, and there's something about it that just like speaks to that time for me. So all three are very emotionally charged for me.
I think that the song Exile holds the most emotional and personal meaning to me, because it is just this weird balance of kind of hopeful, but at the same time just feeling totally alone and deserted. And what the song Exile, what I had in mind when I wrote about it, was kind of living in this land of being called out to something greater, but usually to get to the promised land, we got to walk through the desert. And so Exile is kind of about that desert experience. It's about being out in the unknown and kind of calling out, asking like, do you see me? Do you see this risk I'm taking? Do you see this journey that I'm going on? Can I be acknowledged? Can I be noticed for how hard I am just trying to get through this desert experience? And yet at the same time, it has this determination to it in the chorus that, no matter the tread, I'm gonna keep pushing ahead even when I'm in this space of feeling alone and misunderstood. I think that is just so personal to me, because it is such a unique experience that I never really experienced anything like that until I started taking my faith seriously. And I reached a point where there's kind of a breaking point where you can decide if you're going to go the easy way or if you're going to do the right thing. And oftentimes taking the right path, it's narrow. It is fine. Wide is the road that leads to destruction, but narrow is the gate that leads to life. And so that's really what I think Exile embodies. I personally think it goes without saying that everybody experiences art differently. We all bring our personal lens and experiences to art, and that's why two people can hear the same song and come to completely different conclusions about it. But having said that, I really hope that people feel two things when they hear this album. Number one, I hope that they feel that they are not alone if they are going through something, if they are in a dark time, if they are struggling, if they're in pain, but more importantly, that there is hope, that we can overcome, that there is a way to live life on purpose, and we don't have to concede to just living in the darkness. We can rise above and we can live with hope. I think we're living in a time where people are really hungry. I think people are really hungry for truth. They're hungry for something real, something that can help them make sense of everything that's going on in our world. And I know from personal experience that that hope and that making sense of the world comes from our Creator alone. And so I hope that when people hear this album, that they just feel a deep sense of love, that there is some place for them to belong. There is more to life than what we're being sold, and more so that through hearing these songs and feeling that deep sense of love, that you also feel a deep sense of hunger for who is it that we're talking about in these songs? Who is this Creator we talk about? So I really hope that I can leave you with a sense of desire for more.
I really hope people can find something within it that they like. If they don't, that's still okay with me. Like, I want to make music because like I like doing it, and I want to go on Spotify and be able to put my songs on a playlist because I think those songs are awesome. And if people like it, then that's great. And if they don't like it, then, you know, that's kind of whatever. But I still want to be doing it just, I don't know, it sounds very self-indulgent or selfish, but I want to be doing it just for the sake of doing it. Like, this is what I like doing. Mm-hmm. So if this could go to number one, that would be just swell with me. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to be, you know, too beaten up about it because I think that what we did is still important. I think that people will, you know, as with all media, resonate with certain stuff and maybe not with other pieces of it. I think that it would be too egotistical of us to hope that they grasped everything that we put into it. And maybe that's, you know, for the best, because there will always be a little something for someone to discover in it. I think the biggest takeaway is I want people to hear it, kind of understand what we were going through, and I hope that people will take some comfort in the fact that if we were going through a similar thing, but we were able to come out of it on the other side and put this together, that, you know, maybe in a certain aspect of their lives they could feel the same way.
I hope that I hope they will be able to hear the passion and the raw emotional honesty we put into the album. I hope that they can feel that, and I hope that, you know, if anybody is in a place like we were, that they would feel not alone in that. They wouldn't feel like an exile. They wouldn't feel like no one understands. But they would also get to the resurrection disc and realize that it does get better, right? Like, the night is always darkest before the dawn and all that. You know, it's super cliche, but there's a reason why it's a cliche. It's true. Usually things get harder before they get better. But I hope it just lets people know they're not alone and that this is not forever. But I hope they can also feel how much of a journey it's been for us too. You know, we just wouldn't be here today without God, and we wouldn't be here today without what He did for us in the last couple of years, and I am eternally grateful for that. And yeah, I just really hope people dig this. I hope everybody enjoys it and sees the passion and the love and the creativity and all that.
I had to do my brakes on my car 2 days ago, and well, this is important for people to know. In the back brakes, they were brake drums, and I did that like a year ago, and that sucked. But this time, they were brake pads, and I thought it was going to be like really hard, but then it was actually like pretty easy. So you can do your brake pads too, if you just, you know, put the time to it. And this is relevant to something about the album, but what that is, I'll let you decide. In terms of, you know, the music, what was the question? What do I want people to know? No one's allowed up here.